Hello and welcome to Lesson 0 of our Python track. What is programming and setting up your computer? My name is Rishi and I'm one of the head of programming on Cardinal Robotics. Ideally, by the end of this course, you'll be able to code and understand basic Python projects, which should set you up to learn robot code in no time. So today, we'll briefly go over why do we do computer programming, what is computer programming, what is Python, what is Mu, and then downloading Python, Mu, and Git. So why computer programming? A computer is like a Swiss Army knife that you can configure for countless tasks. So in this analogy, the configuration is your computer program. Many people spend hours clicking and typing to perform repetitive tasks like using spreadsheets, unaware that the machine they're using could do their job in seconds, if only they knew how to give it the right instructions. An anecdote from my own life, I took a summer health course and one of the assignments involved matching different letters or like finding the combinations of different letters, and I wrote a program to automate that, which reduced the amount of time the homework would have taken by orders of magnitude. There's also a wonderful anecdote in the textbook that I'll be linking at the end of this presentation if you're curious. So what exactly is computer programming? Is it the ones and zeros you see flying across the screen in your favorite shows? No. Programming is simply the act of entering instructions for the computer to perform. These instructions might crunch some numbers, modify text, look up information in files, or communicate with other computers over the internet. All programs use basic instructions as building blocks. To understand these basic instructions, let's put ourselves in the shoes of this turtle here. So let's say we're this turtle and we can only understand a single basic instruction at a time. Our first instruction is to approach the road. So we'll approach the road and then look at the next one. Next, we want to see if this is true or false. There are no cars. Obviously, there is a car, so this statement is false. So we'll follow the false arrow, and our next instruction is to wait. So then we go back to the statement. There are no cars. Is it still false? Well, the car is still here. So we'll go back to wait, and we'll keep cycling between these until this car disappears. And let's imagine that it does. Then when we ask, there are no cars, then we'll get true. And then we can follow the instruction, cross the road, and we can make it to the other side. So let's look at a piece of actual Python code. You might not know anything about programming, but you could probably make a reasonable guess at what this code does just by reading it. So take a moment to read it. All right, so let's see what the author of this code probably intended to happen. First, on line 1, the file secretpasswordfile.txt is opened, and then on the second line, this file or the password is read. Then the computer asks the user to input the password. If and only if the user's password matches the password that was in the file, then this section will run, and let's see what happens. So the computer will say access granted. Then it will check again. If the typed password was 12345, then the computer will let us know that it wasn't a very good password. However, if in the first place the user typed an incorrect password, then the computer will just print access denied. So what is Python? So we're going to be using Python in this course, and you saw an example of written Python code in the last slide. Python is a programming language, which is a language that you can write in to give instructions to the computer. So to download Python, you'll want to go to this page and click this button if you're on Windows, or select the correct operating system if you're on Linux or Mac. Once you download it, run the executable, and you should get a window that looks like this. So here, do the custom installation if you want to install it on a specific path, but otherwise just click install now. But before you do, make sure to check this box, because This will make your life a lot easier down the road. The name Python actually comes from the British comedy group Monty Python, which some of you might be familiar with. So we'll be using a program called Mu to write our code. Mu is a pretty simple editor software which is similar to Notepad, Google Docs, or Microsoft Word, as in you write text into files. However, this is designed specifically for Python, and even more specifically for Python beginners. To download Mu, head to this website and choose your OS. Installing Mu might take a while. After you install, launch it, and you should see a window that looks like this. Choose Python 3. If you're unable to download Mu, there are alternatives. Just contact whoever is the current programming lead. This year would be me or Kai. If you didn't choose the correct mode for some reason, you can always change it by clicking Mode over here. To run our first code, click REPL over here. This will open up a little console looking thing that we can expand. Here we can send single lines of instruction to the computer to run. So our first line would be, so once I hit enter, this will make the computer say hello world back to us. So why don't you guys try typing this into your own editor and hitting enter first and seeing what you see. Alright, ideally you should see something like this. Finally, the last thing you'll need to do is to download Git. We're going to be using this program to turn in practice problems, and if you choose to continue learning programming and software development, Git will be very invaluable to your experience. We'll explain how to use this once we get to completing our practice problems. For now, just download it. Finally, just a quick outline of the course resources. None of this is required for you to look at. This is just if you're interested. Most of my lessons will be based off of this textbook by Al Swigart, Automate the Boring Stuff with Python. It's a really cool textbook. We're going to be using the first 6 chapters. This presentation is loosely based on the 0th chapter. We'll also be using learnpython.org, which is more advanced, but Automate the Boring Stuff with Python doesn't cover everything we need.